The moment Evan Locke raised the bright blue container to his lips, the entire classroom froze. Instructor Tavara's eyes widened. Human, no. Too late. Evan drank a full mouthful, swished it thoughtfully, and swallowed. A dozen alien cadets screamed at once. One fainted. Evan wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Is this mint? 3 seconds passed before anyone moved. Then chaos detonated. Tavara lunged for the emergency panel near the wall, slapping it hard enough to trigger a campus-wide alarm. Sirens howled through the ceiling vents. A medic drone unhooked from its charging rail and zipped toward Evan, trailing antiseptic mist. Cadets scrambled from their seats, some vaulting tables, others diving for cover as if he were about to explode. A tall insectoid cadet species, name unreadable without 16 syllables, and a clicking throat pointed at Evan and shrieked, "He ingested death. He drank death." "I'm sorry, what?" Evan looked around, blinking in genuine confusion. "That was on the table. I thought it was for us." No, it is never for ingestion," Tavara cried, her 4 fingers pressed to her temples. "That was Solvex 9, a corrosive class solvent." Evan tilted the plastic container in his hand, examining the label for the first time. The alien glyphs meant nothing to him, but someone had thoughtfully written Solvex 9 in blocky interlingua below it. He gave it a sniff. "Smells like Windex and mint tea had a baby. Kinda refreshing." Tavara staggered back, as if he'd just said he'd chewed on uranium. "What were you thinking?" she asked, stunned. "I was thinking I was thirsty. Nobody offered drinks, and you've been monologuing for an hour." The medic drone reached him, extending a probe the size of a knitting needle. A blue light swept across Evan's chest, then his neck, then his forehead. It beeped twice. Then it screeched, emitted an urgent warning tone, and rebooted midair. Another cadet, whose translucent skin rippled with stress, dropped their data pad. It shattered. "He should be dead. He should be dead. That solvent dissolves organics. It was designed to remove corpse slime from neutron pit armor." "That's specific," Evan said. "But seriously, I'm fine. Little salty, if anything." He set the container back on the table, exactly where he'd found it. Behind him, Tavara collapsed into her chair, claws trembling. "This is not how biology works." She checked her notes, cross-referenced the chemical chart, checked again. "I was told humans were fragile," she muttered. "Digestively simple, low pH tolerance, biochemically dull. You have a mild acid-based stomach, not a digestive furnace." "Well," Evan said, "mine's built different." Several alien cadets gasped. Tavara waved frantically at the wall, pulling up a holo display. "We need a Class 3 medical scan, right now. Get the Xenobiology wing online. Call Dr. Heskar. He wrote the solvent protocols." Evan sat down on a bench, ignoring the clamor. "Do I need to be here for this part, or can I get, like, an actual drink?" A new drone buzzed in, bigger, bulkier. 4 scanner arms whirred into place, rotating like helicopter blades. It hovered over him and began a full-spectrum sweep. Tavara was muttering again. "It shouldn't be possible. Solvex 9 is a Class 2 acidic dispersant, non-ingestible, lethal to all known sapient digestive systems. This is... No, the universe doesn't do this. Biology doesn't bend this way." Evan looked up. "You ever hear of spicy food?" Her eye ridges twitched. "Humans eat things that literally burn our mouths," he continued. "Capsaicin, jalapenos, ghost peppers. Ever had Thai food on Earth?" "Those are flavor stimulants," Tavara said weakly. "They're defensive plant chemicals designed to deter mammals from eating them." The drone pinged. Everyone leaned in. A scan appeared above Evan's head, rotating slowly. Multispectral imaging, internal heat map, biochemical pathways and fluorescent color. The display started blinking red. Then yellow. Then, confusingly, green. The drone hesitated. It emitted a puzzled chirp. Tavara gaped. "He's fine?" "No anomalies detected," the drone said in a neutral voice. A cadet fell off their chair. Tavara staggered upright again. "Run it again." Another scan. More confusion. Evan pulled a protein bar from his pocket. "You guys always overreact like this? You'd think I chugged bleach." You essentially did, someone yelled. No, Evan replied, with a mouthful of granola. Bleach stinks. Tavera paced in a small circle, muttering to herself in Helion dialect. Finally, she turned and jabbed a finger at him. You are going to the lab. You are submitting to full diagnostic sequencing. I want to see how your digestive tract survived that. Sure, Evan said, but I'm not walking. Why not? Because I drank industrial cleaner and now my stomach feels like I swallowed a lava lamp. Half the room screamed again. Tavara spun. Get a stretcher. Carefully. Don't let him jostle. What if it activates the compound? What compound? Evan asked. It tasted like mouthwash and regret. Exactly. 2 cadets returned with a hover stretcher and gestured awkwardly for him to lie down. Evan complied with the air of someone indulging a bunch of paranoid coworkers. As they eased him onto the platform, Tavara spoke into her wrist.com. This is Instructor Tavara. We have an emergency reclassification in progress. Subject human. Designation, Evan Locke. Biological resilience appears to exceed current galactic norms. Possible unique enzymatic breakdown of corrosive substrates. Recommend immediate database update. She hesitated, then added, also, do not leave Class 2 solvents unattended, especially near humans. The stretcher glided down the hallway, flanked by 6 nervous cadets and 2 drones keeping a full sensor lock on Evan's vital signs. His pulse was fine, his blood pressure was normal. The only abnormality? Slight dehydration. I told you, Evan said. I was thirsty. The hallway grew quiet. Far behind them, a single cadet asked, Wait, does that mean he metabolized it? The others looked at each other in horror. I think so, someone whispered. He drank it and converted it into energy? Or his stomach neutralized it somehow? Or, is he evolving right now? Guys, he asked for more. By the time they reached the Academy's medical wing, half the school had heard. Rumors spread faster than sensor data. One story claimed Evan had chewed the container open. Another insisted he was from a death world where people drank acid recreationally. A third said Earth's oceans were 90% solvent, and humans had adapted by accident. None of it was true. Evan Locke was a maintenance tech, a very ordinary human from North Dakota with a slightly above-average caffeine tolerance and a below-average sense of caution. He wasn't immune to everything. He wasn't even especially tough. But on that day, in that room, he drank a mouthful of what was essentially floor cleaner and walked away annoyed that it didn't quench his thirst. The med lab doors opened. Tavara followed the stretcher in, barking orders at the attending physicians. Scanners were prepped. Tests were lined up. Subject will undergo digestive enzyme analysis, stomach acid profiling, esophageal abrasion check, and organ integrity verification. Evan raised a hand. Any chance I can get a glass of water first? A silence fell. Then, slowly, everyone in the room stepped back. Like he'd just asked for plutonium in his coffee. Tavara didn't even look at him. Somebody fetch distilled water and supervise the container. Do not, under any circumstances, let the human pour it himself. Hey, Evan said, raising an eyebrow. I can tell the difference between cleaning fluid and water. You drank it. Okay, bad example. The lights dimmed for the first scan. Outside, the Academy database updated quietly in the background. Species: human biochemical wildcards, resistances unpredictable, digestive limits unconfirmed, exercise caution when storing hazardous liquids in mixed species environments. Instructors across the sector bookmarked the file. Alien cadets forwarded it to their friends. And somewhere in the confusion, someone added a new line to the safety manual. Label all consumable fluids clearly, especially around Earthborne maintenance staff. And thus, Hydration Incident 7B entered galactic history. Not as a tragedy, not as a mistake, but as the moment the galaxy realized something terrifying about humans. They'll drink anything if they're thirsty enough, even if it smells like mint. The smell of antiseptic gel and ozone filled the med lab as Evan lay under his 4th scanner in the past 2 hours. He'd been told not to move. He'd been told not to speak. He'd also been told politely, but firmly not to exhale too deeply, in case it triggered another round of sensor alarms. The lab was dim except for the softly pulsing light of holoscreens floating above the biobed. Readouts shifted every few seconds, projecting chemical pathways and reaction chains none of the technicians could explain yet. A cluster of alien medics and researchers had gathered along one wall, whispering frantically into datapads. Evan let out a long sigh. So, this is about the drink? A half-dozen heads turned sharply. The head xenobiologist, Dr. Heskar, pointed a trembling claw at him. That drink was Solvex 9, Class 2, corrosive, intended for sterilizing necrotic tissue residue on carbon-based hull plating. Evan raised his eyebrows. Yeah, you mentioned that. About 12 times. You drank it. I also asked for water. Still waiting on that. There was a pause. Then a nervous assistant scurried forward with a sealed container. It looked suspiciously like a fuel cell, except with a paper straw stuck into one side and a neon green water, approved for human consumption sticker slapped on the front. Evan took a sip. Thank you. Dr. Heskar didn't relax. In fact, none of them did. Tavara stood off to the side, arms crossed, her tail twitching behind her in quiet irritation. She'd been there since the beginning of the scans, refusing to leave even once. The others deferred to her out of respect or fear. After a moment, she spoke again. Explain to me how your internal organs are not in the process of liquefying. Evan set the drink aside and sat up on the bed. I don't know. I guess we just built tough. Heskar let out a high-pitched wheeze. Biology does not build tough. It evolves selectively. And this? He gestured wildly at the scan hovering in the air. This is not selection. This is anomaly. Evan leaned back again. Okay, how about this? What did the solvent do inside me? You ran all your scans. You tell me. Dr. Heskar exchanged a look with Tavara. Well, he said, we don't know. Tavara stepped forward. It didn't react the way it should have. It bonded briefly with stomach acids, then broke down. Into what? Into harmless waste products. Organic, inert. Evan smiled. Sounds like digestion to me. No, Heskar barked. That solvent is not digestible. It's non-nutritive. It's biocidal. The only known species that can tolerate trace exposure are vacuum-adapted gastropods, and even they use hazmat gear. Evan shrugged. Okay, but it was minty. A tech dropped their tablet. Tavara massaged her temples again. This is going in the report. Evan blinked. You're writing a report? We're writing 17. Another assistant chimed in nervously. The Biochem Council already pinged us. They want samples. A complete metabolic map. There's talk of requesting permission to study his microbiome. Hard pass, Evan said. I'm not letting anyone in my gut unless they bring me dinner first. Tavara looked like she might actually fall over. You're making jokes. I'm bored, he said. I missed lunch, and I got dragged into this safety demo because someone marked me down for mop fluid certification. Because you requested access to the hazardous cleaning locker last week. I needed to degrease a heat exchanger. Nobody told me the solvent was from a horror movie. Heskar was tapping furiously at a screen. You said it tasted like mint? Yeah. Describe the flavor profile. Cool, slightly herbal, a little salty. Kinda like that blue mouthwash back home. Heskar looked ill. I thought it was just some alien sports drink, Evan continued. I mean, you had it sitting on a table next to all the other bottles. That was a demonstration display. Okay, but still. Glass containers, colored liquids, ambient lighting. That's how Earth beverage commercials look. The room erupted in overlapping groans. I think he's serious, a young cadet whispered. He is, Tavara said darkly. And that's the problem. Word spread fast. By the time Evan was cleared to leave the med lab several hours and multiple apologies later, he'd become a minor celebrity on campus. Everywhere he walked, aliens stared, some with awe, some with caution. One small quadruped cadet dropped their cafeteria tray and fled the moment he entered the dining hall. He got used to it by mid-afternoon. He didn't get used to the posters. By evening, someone had printed an 8-foot-high safety notice titled, Warning, Human Hydration Protocols. It featured a blurry still image of Evan mid-sip. surrounded by chemical warning icons and a list of substances now considered at risk if left unattended. He stopped and stared at it. That's not even a good picture. Tavara appeared beside him. We're making it mandatory in all mixed species labs. He gave her a sidelong glance. You know this wasn't intentional, right? I am aware. I was thirsty. I'm painfully aware. They stood in silence for a moment. Evan tilted his head at the poster. What's this bottom line? Tier 3, solvent susceptibility, potentially neutralized by Homo sapiens, further testing required. That's the part you should not be proud of. I'm a maintenance tech. That's a resume line. Tavara sighed. We've had to update the hazard protocols for 17 compounds. Reassignments are happening. Our chemical engineers are holding a panic meeting. And the council sent me a message with 3 words I never want to see again. Which were, humans metabolize what? Evan grinned. Don't. Okay. A long pause. Do you want a mint? He asked. She turned and walked away. That night, the Academy database flagged an update across all departments. The memo was titled Human Digestive Classification Revision. It now officially listed humans' Earth origin sapients as having unpredictable digestive status. Notable incident, hydration event 7B. A set of urgent risk notes followed. First, do not assume any solvent is lethal to humans by default. Second, never leave experimental compounds within reach. Third, do not rely on visible distress as a safety indicator. Humans might look fine even when ingesting dangerous substances. Fourth, be aware that humans may decide to ingest a liquid based purely on its smell, color, or vague instinct. And, finally, mint-scented materials are now considered especially high risk. Further, notice, humans do not possess internal corrosion shielding. The incident remains unexplained. Avoid temptation to test other chemicals on humans. Disciplinary actions will be taken. Attached was a short clip of Evan drinking the Solvex 9, followed by a still image of Tavara sitting down with her head in her hands. The final comment thread contained over 9,000 reactions. Most popular tag, number, biochemical wildcard. Back in his dorm room, Evan kicked off his boots, sat on the edge of the bunk, and stared at the sealed water container still sitting on his desk. It was overly secure, triple-sealed, bar-coded. It had a QR code that linked to a lab report proving it contained nothing but water. He picked it up, sniffed it, took a sip. Still could use sugar. He set it down and turned to the wall console. A new message blinked. Instructor Tavara, urgent lab invitation. Please report to the Xenobiology wing at 0900 tomorrow. Bring your preferred beverage, for comparative purposes. Evan groaned. If they make me drink vinegar next, I'm putting in for reassignment. Outside, somewhere deep in the academy, a security drone passed a maintenance closet, paused, and double-checked the status of its chemical storage locker. It beeped, then locked it with a triple code. Nobody wanted to risk another hydration incident, especially not with the humans still on campus. The Xenobiology wing of Helion Academy wasn't built for comfort, it was built for containment. Every surface gleamed under sterilized lights. The walls were either translucent or completely opaque, depending on the security setting. A dozen labs ran in parallel, each sealed behind independent magnetic locks. Inside those rooms, biohazards, reactive agents, rare species in carefully monitored quarantine tanks. Outside those rooms, pacing the main hallway like a man on his way to court, walked Evan Locke. He held a travel mug. Steam rose lazily from the lid. It smelled like cinnamon and oversteeped tea. The hallway cleared ahead of him as lab assistants and cadets pretended to be busy anywhere else. He wasn't wearing a hazmat suit. He wasn't glowing. He wasn't even in a bad mood. But Evan Locke had made the mistake of surviving something that should have killed him, which, to the scientific community, was only slightly less dangerous than a live grenade. A voice called from the far end. "Human? You brought a beverage?" Evan raised the mug. As requested, cinnamon rooibos, caffeine-free. Tavara stepped out of a side room wearing a containment vest and gloves that looked like they belonged on a starship repair crew. She eyed the mug warily. "You made it yourself?" Yes. You verified the ingredients? Boiled water, tea leaves, little honey. Is that a code for something? It's tea. She turned toward a sealed chamber nearby. Follow me, slowly. Keep the beverage upright. Inside, a team of xenobiologists waited beside a long, multi-sensor diagnostic table. On it sat a single vial of Solvex-9, carefully secured behind a radiation-grade energy shield. Nobody looked at Evan directly. Most glanced sideways, as if afraid he might start chewing on the equipment. Tavara gestured to a seat. Please place the beverage on the tray. We'll begin the comparative analysis shortly. Evan sat. You want to scan my drink? Correct. To compare it to industrial solvent. Yes. He sipped from his mug. You all need hobbies. Dr. Heskar entered the room from the other side, carrying a stack of tablets and a deeply focused scowl. I hope you haven't consumed anything besides that since yesterday, he said without looking up. 2 eggs, a protein bar, and a sad bowl of synth oats. Anything reactive? It was oatmeal, Doc, not napalm. The researchers began running simulations on the tea sample. Molecule chains mapped out across the holoscreens. Enzyme compatibility, absorption curves, flavor compounds, it all flashed in multicolored graphs while a dull hum filled the room. Evan leaned back. So, what exactly are you hoping to find? Hesker didn't look up. An explanation. For why I'm not dead. For why you're still not dead. One of the assistants turned from the Hola table. We ran your saliva sample against the Solvex compound. It shows partial ion suppression. Your biochemistry neutralized the active solvent chains. Tavara nodded. Your stomach acids didn't just endure Solvex-9, they dismantled it. Evan tilted his head. Is that good? For you, yes, Hesker muttered. For our understanding of xenobiological safety protocols, it's a disaster. Why? Because now, the Threxan delegates are asking if humans can be used as biological disposal systems. Evan sat up. What? We said no? You hesitated, didn't you? Tavara looked away. You absolutely hesitated. We were calculating survivability windows, Heskar admitted. You might be able to process other Class II substances, mild acids, certain hydrocarbons, possibly even... Evan held up a hand. Stop. Right there. I am not drinking more weird crap just to help you balance your hazard charts. Even for science? Especially for science. The room fell quiet. Then one of the researchers raised a hand. I have a question, she said carefully. If humans have this level of digestive variability, how do you test your own food? Evan blinked. You mean how do we know what's safe to eat? Yes. Do you use enzyme scans, chemical overlays, dietary prediction models? No, we just eat it. Everyone stared. Tavara stepped forward. You test new food by ingesting it? We call it taste testing. Another assistant dropped their stylus. Dr. Heskar's voice was hoarse. That is barbaric. We spit it out if it's weird. That's your safeguard? We have labels, allergy warnings, most of the time. A long, collective silence followed. Finally, a junior cadet whispered, They have death-resistant stomachs, and no fear. Evan sighed. That's not true. I'm afraid of things. What things? Taxes, social interaction, birds, kinda. You ever seen an emu? Terrifying. Tavara walked to the back of the room and whispered into a wall panel. After a moment, she returned with a tablet. You've been formally requested to speak at the Interdisciplinary Hazard Council next week. Why? To explain what substances are safe for human ingestion. Apparently the cafeteria had to lock up the floor wax, just in case. Evan pinched the bridge of his nose. I licked one solvent. You drank it. Fine, I drank one solvent. And now the cafeteria is relabeling the mop buckets as not beverages. He paused. Wait, were they labeled before? No. See, that's your fault. Tavara turned and walked away without another word. Later that evening, a new campus-wide bulletin was issued. It read, Notice to all faculty and students. Effective, start date, 885.43. All non-consumable liquids must now be stored in sealed, color-coded containers. Each one must clearly display 4 specific details: the chemical class, the toxicity level, species-specific hazard warnings, and a clear visual indicator that the substance is not edible. The addendum was more urgent. Do not allow humans near any unlabeled liquids. Do not attempt to test human digestive limits without formal ethical board approval. And above all, do not assume that something minty is safe to drink. Reminder: the Human Incident Hydration Event 7B is still under review. Until further notice, avoid offering humans anything not pre-cleared by a xenodietitian. The next morning, Evan walked into the mechanic's bay to find someone had taped a sign to his locker. It read, "Do not feed the human." There was a hand-drawn cartoon of him holding a bottle labeled "Death Juice." He rolled his eyes and peeled it off. Rex, a 4-armed Ixtari engineer, glanced over. "You okay, man?" "Yeah." "New dietary restrictions?" Evan grabbed a wrench from the wall. "Only if you count don't drink things that melt paint." Rex chuckled. "Honestly, I kinda respect it." "What, the solvent?" "No, you looked death in the eye and said, 'Needs sugar.' That's hardcore. I just wanted a drink." "And you got a legend." Evan snorted. "Great, next thing you know, they'll be adding me to the health curriculum." They did. That afternoon, a new training module went live across the Academy's safety portal. It was titled Unit 7B Cross-Species Biological Outliers. The case study: human. Subject: Evan Locke. The key points were simple, but firm. First, humans possess digestive resilience that cannot be reliably predicted. Second, they must never be used as a baseline when determining toxicity for other species. Third, all hydration provided to humans must come from verified, pre-approved consumables. And finally, Evan Locke is not to be emulated. At the bottom of the module, a single image was displayed. It showed Evan mid-sip, drinking the Solvex 9 with a stark caption underneath. "He survived, you won't." Meanwhile, deep in the administrative tower, a cluster of high-ranking xenobiologists huddled around a table. One tapped a monitor. "We have to update the medical codex. If humans can neutralize solvents, we need new protocols." Another nodded. "I heard one of them once swallowed a battery as a child and passed it with no ill effects. That can't be real." "You're thinking of magnets." "Even worse." Silence fell. Then the head of the department leaned forward. "Whatever we thought we knew about human digestion, we don't. From now on, assume nothing. If it's not labeled, if it's not locked, if it's not bolted to the wall, they might drink it." And so, across Helion Academy, a quiet shift began. Doors got locks. Containers got warning lights. And every drink station was refitted with a retinal scanner and a biometric signature system just to make absolutely sure that no one, not even Evan Locke, mistook a beaker of ship-grade degreaser for a sports drink ever again. Probably. 3 days after the incident, Evan Locke walked into the most secure lecture hall on Helion Academy's campus and immediately regretted his life choices. Bright lights, packed seating, a wall-to-wall panel of alien scientists, each representing a different branch of interstellar medicine, chemistry, or biohazard control. And at the center podium, blinking through 3 different sets of projector beams, was him. He scratched the back of his neck. "So, just to clarify, I'm not in trouble, right?" Tavara, seated in the front row, arms crossed, her tail visibly twitching, answered without looking up from her notes. "No, Locke, you are not in trouble. You are under observation." "That's not better." The Dean of Interspecies Safety cleared his throat. "This is a multidisciplinary inquiry. We require first-person testimony for official codex integration." Evan turned slightly. "Testimony?" "About your decision-making process, your perceptions, the sequence of events that led to the consumption of Solvex 9. You mean the part where I drank something because I was thirsty and thought it smelled like iced tea?" "Yes, that." A slow murmur rippled across the auditorium. Evan stepped up to the mic. "Okay, well, I was sitting in the back, didn't even know I was supposed to be at the demo. I thought it was a cleaning certification class." Another murmur. "They brought out a bunch of bottles. Some glowed, some smoked, a few of them had ominous warning lights. But then there was this one, Solvex 9. just sitting there on the table like it was part of the buffet. Blue, clear, not bubbling, no radiation symbol, didn't smell toxic. A tentacled researcher in the second row raised a pseudopod. Define toxic smell. You ever sniffed ammonia? Yes. Like that, but meaner. That's a toxic smell. This one smelled like mint, kind of fresh, slightly sweet. The room shifted uncomfortably. Tvara raised her hand. Mr. Locke, was there any label indicating the container was for consumption? No, but there also wasn't one not indicating it. It just said Solvex 9, which could have been a drink brand, for all I knew. A scientist from the Vexari Institute leaned forward. You assumed an unknown substance was safe based on smell? I also didn't see anyone guarding it, or wearing gloves, or saying not to touch it. It was a demonstration of lethal materials. Well, then maybe don't put them next to the muffin tray. Someone near the back let out a choked cough. Evan continued. So, I picked it up, took a sip, realized it wasn't tea, but also realized it wasn't killing me. Tasted weird, but not dangerous. I figured I'd made a mistake, but no harm done. A short, feathered academic stood up. You didn't panic? I don't panic until after the paperwork. That earned a few actual laughs. Evan paused, then added more seriously. I know I should have asked, but I'm used to working around weird smells and unlabeled stuff. Back on Earth, I've seen people chug battery-powered energy drinks that look like radiator fluid. Sometimes the packaging wants to scare you. Tvara tapped her tablet. So this was a cultural misunderstanding. Partially, but also, you left a blue liquid in an open container, with no lid, no sign, and no supervisor. That was my mistake, she admitted. I assumed no one would drink it. Evan smiled. Welcome to human unpredictability. The dean raised a hand. Thank you, Mr. Locke. That clarifies much. Your resilience remains under review. Further testing will be optional, but encouraged. Just make sure the next one comes with a cookie. Outside, in the courtyard, the air was cool and filled with the scent of alien trees dropping purple leaves. Evan sat on a bench sipping from a very clearly labeled water bottle, this one with bold letters, certified hydration fluid, approved for human use. Across from him, Tvara remained quiet for a while, watching a few cadets pass by without making eye contact. Did you know, she said finally, that 27 different species submitted hazard upgrades to our central database after your incident? Yeah, I heard the cafeteria staff now wears goggles when serving punch. One species now uses your picture as a training icon for their hazard courses. Evan frowned. Is it flattering? No. A long silence followed. Then, to his surprise, she laughed. Not a full laugh, more like a sharp exhale that meant she'd finally accepted the absurdity of the entire situation. Do you realize, she said, you've set xenobiology back by a decade? That bad? We have to reclassify your entire species. Again. Evan took a sip of water. We're a moving target. You're a walking compliance violation. I prefer the term adaptive. She turned toward him. Have you considered returning to Earth? He blinked. You're kicking me out? No, I'm warning you. There are now 3 research institutions offering grants for anyone who can identify what makes your digestive system tick. You mean poke me with scanners until I glow? Exactly. Evan leaned back. Guess I'll stick around a bit longer, as long as no one feeds me alien soap again. Tvara winced. It was not soap. It was a Class 2 protein-stripping solvent. He shrugged, tasted like soap. She stood. Enjoy your hydration, Locke. He saluted lazily. You too, Tvara. As she walked off, 2 cadets passed by him, whispering in Helion dialect. One glanced at his water bottle, then back at him with something between awe and suspicion. Evan couldn't help it. He raised the bottle slowly, took a sip, made a thoughtful face. Still need sugar? He said aloud. The cadets froze. One dropped their datapad. The following week, Helion Academy finalized a new internal protocol. It was filed under Section 13.5, Human Interaction and Biochemical Precautions. The rules were clear. First, never assume human digestion follows the standard biological models used by other species. Second, All chemicals, no matter how mild, must now be stored at a safe distance from any human-occupied zones. Third, unlabeled fluids are no longer permitted in shared spaces. If it doesn't have a warning, it gets locked away. Fourth, the presence of a mint scent is not a valid safety indicator. In fact, it may increase the risk of accidental consumption. And finally, the standing assumption is this: if a substance is left unattended and a human is nearby, they just might drink it. Final note: humans do not ingest toxic materials deliberately. However, patterns indicate that they also do not reliably distinguish between liquid and drink. The new guidelines circulated widely, becoming a galactic case study in cross-species caution. Universities requested speaking events, safety boards requested interviews, and deep in the Helion science forums, a popular meme quietly rose to prominence. A stylized silhouette of Evan holding a glowing blue container, captioned simply, "He drank it." No explanation. No context. Just legend. Back in the mechanics bay, Evan returned to his regular duties, greasing joints, running diagnostics, replacing damaged coolant lines with his toolkit humming at his side. Life, for all its solvent-fueled drama, returned to normal. Mostly. He was never left alone near chemical storage again. His name was added to the safety roster under Category X handle with context. And every maintenance locker now came with a cup dispenser and a hydration chart. He did, however, finally get the correct mop fluid certification. It came with a certificate that read, "Verified, knows what not to drink." He hung it proudly in his bunk. And when new cadets arrived every semester, someone always pointed him out. "That's the human," they'd whisper. "The one from Hydration Incident 7B. Some called him reckless. Others called him brave. Evan just called it Tuesday. And every time he opened a bottle, no matter what it was, someone flinched. Which, honestly, made the water taste a little better. Still needed sugar, though. Always did.